Please join me as I pray. Again, Father, we're thankful for the blessings of this day. And we know, Lord, that you'll never ask us to walk through the fire unless you have your eye on the temperature gauge and your hand on the thermostat. But Lord, sometimes with these summer days, we feel like we're walking through the fire, and we just pray your blessing on us. And Lord, we pause now in this commissioners court meeting to ask a blessing from you on these commissioners. 6,000 years of biblical history has taught us that nations become what their leaders are. And that holds true for states and communities and any elected board, because we elect the people that represent us. So, Lord, we just pray your blessing on them, that you would give them your wisdom, that you would direct their thoughts and their actions so that those actions and thoughts would benefit all the citizens of this county. And we just praise you in advance for what you're going to accomplish through their works. For it's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Roll call.
Mr. Cheney.
Here.
Mr. Castro.
Here.
Commissioner Russo.
Here.
Commissioner Lawbach.
Here.
Judge Mills.
Here, we do have a quorum. We have any citizens to be heard up front? If not, it's, I'm going to move some things around here today. We're going to go straight to item number 12 because of Mr. Dominguez's health. He's not able to be here. His wife and daughter are here, but they need to get back to him. So that was number 12. Proclamation Art 07-2022 honoring Richard Dominguez for his contributions to this community. As we all know, the man has done a phenomenal job all of his life for the veterans of this community.
Is that a motion? I'll second.
Made the motion.
Oh, yes.
I'll second it.
Second, Commissioner.
Proclamation P 07-2022, recognizing June 13th, 2022 as Richard Dominguez Appreciation Day. Whereas Richard Dominguez of Rockport served with great distinction in the United States Air Force, and in the years since, he has continued to distinguish himself through his service to his fellow veterans. And whereas born in Rockport in 1935, Mr. Dominguez answered his nation's call to duty as a member of the 1737th Ferrying Squadron, where he helped maintain F-86 Sabre jet fighter aircraft for deployment in Korea. He left the Air Force after receiving a lifelong disability in a work-related accident, but he remained proud of his time in the military and committed to honoring his brothers and sisters in uniform. And whereas shortly after his discharge, Mr. Dominguez became a member of the American GI Forum and a close friend of the Presidential Medal of Freedom honoree, Dr. Hector P. Garcia. And in 1966, he helped found the Rockport chapter of the GI Forum, becoming a lifetime member of the group and of the local Disabled American Veterans chapter. He later played a vital role in the creation of Veterans Memorial Park in Rockport. And whereas in April 2004, Mr. Dominguez demonstrated remarkable courage and compassion when he volunteered to speak with a U.S. Army veteran suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder who had shot and taken hostage 2 employees at Rockport Fulton High School. Thanks to his heroic intervention, the standoff was resolved without loss of life. And whereas throughout his life, Richard Dominguez has been steadfast in his love of country and his devotion to his fellow veterans, and he is truly deserving of such special recognition. Now, therefore, we, the Commissioners Court of Aransas County, do proclaim this 13th day of June, 2022 as Richard Dominguez Appreciation Day.
I'd just like to add that Richard Dominguez has been a lifelong friend of mine. I was by his house to visit with him not long ago, and it made me feel kind of bad. He still has his Air Force uniform. I don't mind with the more folks a long time ago. So he was very proud of being a veteran. Mr. Dominguez, if you're going to please come up. Photo up.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Castleton.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lava.
Aye.
Judge Mills.
Aye, unanimous. Okay, we do have presentation and he's here. Rural Economic Assistance League, providing for the update on public transportation service and needs of Aransas County. Good morning.
Good morning. Literally just walked in the door. We have a paper presentation. May we approach the court to pass them out, please? Thank you. And I believe we also have it on there. First, good morning. My name is Martin
Thank you.
Nelas. I'm the Director of Riots Transportation Services and have been for the last 7 years. Prior to that, I worked in a coordinating role where I assisted the new transit provider Real in assuming services for Aransas County plus 3 other counties after V Community Action Services ended their transportation contract. So I've been involved with the services in this county for a number of years. There we go. By brief background, let me tell you a little bit about Real. We've been around for 50 years. This year, we celebrate our 50th year. And we have 5 major services that we provide: public transportation, housing facilities, 7 throughout the region. We also provide adult daycare services for seniors and persons with disabilities, a series of services at home, as well as a clubhouse, which is a facility for adults living with serious mental illness, headquartered out of Jim Wells County. We've recently completed a strategic planning process, and we're very proud of our current mission and goals for the organization that I'd like to briefly point out. We believe that all rural communities deserve a dignified quality of life, and we do that by honoring the value, worth, and dignity of all the residents through safe, caring, holistic, and community-driven solutions. We see ourselves as the leading regional rural organization providing comprehensive services, community-driven solutions so that everyone has a fulfilling, independent quality of life. In regards to transportation, which is the main focus of my presentation today, I'd like to first give you a background on our current services. We operate out of 4 hubs, headquartered out of Alice, Beeville, Falfurrias, and Sinton. We have an 82 vehicle fleet capacity, all of which are ADA accessible for seniors, mobility issues, or persons in wheelchairs. We currently have 36 drivers throughout our service area, which is 9 counties. We have 6 operating staff and 13 support staff, which includes maintenance staff, safety, finance, HR, and management. A brief overview of our entire services that have occurred since pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, which is our base number, we provided approximately 295,000 trips through our entire service area. COVID hit in 2020. At that point, our services were reduced to about 144,000 annual trips. Last year in 2021, again, there was a harsher impact and a greater reduction down to 71,450. But we are pleased to report that in the first 6 months of 2022, our trips have increased to 43,619. At the current rate, we envisioned having at least a 22% increase in our ridership, which is what we're currently seeing, which is getting us closer to the 2020 numbers, which is our current target, giving us a good 12 to 16 months to get closer to our true baseline of 2019. I want to talk a little bit about our weekly trips pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, we had 5,536 weekly trips. In the first 6 months of 2022, while with a 22% increase, we're up to 1,673 trips a week. Pre-COVID services here in Aransas County specifically, in the last quarter that we looked at, we delivered 687 trips in that quarter pre-COVID. In current 2022, we are pleased to be able to let you know that we've provided 740 trips in the same quarter. So even in pre-COVID numbers, post-COVID now, the numbers in this county in the last quarter have increased by 8% from our baseline in 2019, which is a very good thing to do. I want to point out that 86% of those 740 trips are trips within Aransas County itself. 14% are outside of the county to Nueces County primarily. And the vast majority of those trips, 94%, are for medical purposes. The other purposes are for personal reasons, recreational, shopping, visiting, and the like. Looking at the overall trip purposes in pre-COVID, what we saw was a different balance of the types of trips. We had about 36%, which were medical, 3% which were for educational or training purposes, 13% were work-related trips, and 48% were for personal reasons. Now, post-COVID in the 2022 year, what we're finding is that there's only 3 primary purposes that folks are using our current transportation services. 65% are for medical purposes, 32% are for personal reasons, and only 3% are for work. That is the challenge we have before us. How do we diversify the trip purpose and expand the services available to the residents in this county? I'm happy to report that I'm here with 2 of our mobility managers. We have here with us Mel, and we have Savannah, who work with the entire mobility management team in bringing awareness to our services, increasing the ridership overall. And our goal is to diversify in a broader perspective the purpose of the trip so that it becomes a service that is asked for, not necessarily needed, but it becomes part of quality of life. Certainly right now with the high prices of gas, people may choose to say it's easier to take a bus rather than me drive myself. Oh, I lost that. I don't know what I did. No, I had a few more. Okay, that's fine. Then we'll go to the page that you see where it says current strategies, that I like to point out some of the things we're currently doing before I move into looking towards the future. Currently, we're blessed to be able to have a grant that we've secured that reduces fares by 80% to any trip in and out of the Corpus Christi urbanized area. That's specifically targeted to seniors, persons with disabilities, and low-income individuals. It's out of a funding stream from the FTA called 5310 for seniors and persons with disabilities. So a trip that would normally cost $15 round trip would now cost $3 round trip. It's on a limited basis until the funds run out. But if you were to look at the type of trips that we're delivering, all of those going in and out of Corpus Christi would fall under that rate reduction. In addition to that, we have a new program called Color Express that specifically targets, currently, it's a pilot program that's at no cost to anyone attending higher education or training purposes anywhere within the Coastal Bend region. The trips must originate in rural areas. It could be into Del Mar, it could be into Coastal Bend College and the like. We currently have several students that have already committed to using the service starting in the fall. We will be transporting them to and from Del Mar College here from Rockport. The issue with that is also on a limited basis and is on a pilot basis. So after that, we're looking at possibilities of how to sustain those services over the long haul. Note that we take security very seriously in our entire fleet. And for that, we have onboard cameras in all our vehicles. We also have technology that's available for riders. We're currently upgrading all our fleet to have free Wi-Fi for passengers while they're on board. In addition to that, all our dispatching is remotely through mobile data terminals. So all the changes in our live system, as cancellations happen, drivers get their notifications on their tablet themselves. For the safety of passengers as well as for drivers, there is a panic button that's in all our vehicles. Should an incident occur, the button is pressed, dispatch is notified, a team then becomes aware. We're able to go and see what's happening in the vehicle and be able to hear and call for any emergency purposes that we may need, whether it's towards a passenger, towards a driver, or just an incident that may happen. Thus far, thank God we haven't had to call anyone, but it is available on an as needed basis. Be aware that every year we do an annual satisfaction survey. We're in the process of initiating that, and we hope once we get those results, we can come back and report to you as a commissioner, so the satisfaction of the services, what is working and what needs to be improved. Our main focus currently is outreach, outreach, outreach. The more we inform folks about the services, the more we see our numbers going up, back up to our base of 2019 figures of getting close to the 300,000 a year services. We have increased our reservations and dispatch staff to ensure that calls coming in, as well as being able to increase our ridership by making the appropriate reservations, it's available. And we currently have back ordered 20 vehicles that have been ordered. We don't have a date when they'll arrive. I'm sure you face that in other ways, but we have the resources. We've already committed the funds. They're on order, and I wish I could tell you when their arrival will be, but it's not here yet.
Do you pick up at home?
We pick up at home.
Okay.
Yes. Our services are completely demand response at this point. That means we will pick you up at that location that you let us know, and we'll take you to the location where you're going. Now, the last page that I have here is strategy, needs, and things towards the future. Certainly, we take a risk when we subsidize service on a temporary basis that once the funds are depleted, the fares go back to regular fares. And so that is our current challenge. How do we project what we currently have for the next 18 to 20 months? We're secure on our funding based on using patterns. We believe we'll be fine for the next 12 to 18 months. But after the 18 months of $15 fare that went down to $3, we'll need to go up to 15 unless we find other sources of funding to subsidize those kinds of services. Be aware that there is another county, Liable County, that offers financial support to 100% of the time reduce the fares for all residents initiating their trips out of Liable County are always reduced at 80%, whether it's in town or whether it's out of town. So there are counties that are contributing to make sure that that is a permanent fixture in the service delivery for their particular community. We certainly have one of our facilities out of Sinton, which is where our drivers are coming in to provide the services here in Aransas County. We could certainly use the support of the county in identifying a location for parking and storage of our facility, of our vehicles, of our fleet. An office would be ideal, as well as driver space. The closer the assets are to the people, the more cost effective it will be. Less driving to and from to initiate the pickup. It's always an asset to us.
How many vehicles are you talking about?
I'm sorry?
How many vehicles are you talking about?
Right now, we would have 2 drivers that would be able to start immediately. The ratio is about 1.5 vehicles per driver. So we would be looking at anywhere between 4 or 6 vehicles, between 4 and 6.
That would be immediately, or?
It would be as soon as we could make the arrangements and make the transfer, yes.
I'm working, I believe, I don't know what the lady's name is, somebody.
Pam,
Pam.
she's back in the office, yes.
We'll find a place to park on the office. We'll have to look for it.
Correct. The office is not a full office, just somewhere where we can store keys to the vehicle safely, because drivers do not take the keys to the vehicle. So that's the kind of office. It's not a full-fledged regular office per
All
se.
right. Thank you.
But we thank you for your leadership with that, Judge Mills. The other thing that we'd like to bring to your attention is we'd like to pursue what's called a Transit Technical Services Program opportunity through the Texas Department of Transportation. That is a set of consultants that TxDOT makes available to rural transit systems so that we can particularly look at certain areas that we want to focus on service improvement. What we'd like to recommend, with your support, is that we look at the kinds of questions as, are we right-sizing our transit operations out of this county? Is demand response the most appropriate approach to provide the services that we need? Or can we look at the demographics, the mobility needs, and design the sustainability of a new service approach that could be a deviated route? It could be a flexible route. It could be a circulator route or possible weekend service. Could that be done? Is the demand there? Is the need there? And how do we sustain that? That would allow us to get a team of professionals that could also look at all the demographics and see, is that something that realistically could be done? Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned weekend service. Does that mean right now it's just a weekday?
Yes, currently
Monday
the
through Friday.
services are Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. But this study would look at Can that type of service be sustained? Typically in urban areas, they have what's called fixed route service. That means it has 5 stops. At 7:15, it's in one location. At 8:20, it's in another location. At 8:30, it's in another location. However, there are conditions to provide fixed route service. Someone that has mobility challenges or is in a wheelchair and cannot get to the bus stop, we must provide by law comparable equal service. So rather than just providing one service, fixed route, we're providing 2, fixed route service and ADA paratransit service. What we'd like to look at is a flex deviated route that is more of a flag type of service where we have designated stops, but a resident calls and says, I live 3 blocks away and I can't get there. The bus can deviate the route, pick them up, and continue on their general routing. It gives a little bit more flexibility and only one type of service. We'd like to investigate that type of service. Can it work in this county? And if it can, what are the conditions to make it happen? And if it can, how can it be sustained over time?
I'm guessing you've been talking to Patricia Arnold.
We've been talking to someone in her office. Yes, we've been looking at ways to constantly improve our services, and those are some of the conversations we've been having. Yes.
I'd like to say previously, we were with a different group before we switched to y'all a number of years ago, and y'all services have always been far above what we were previously getting. So I appreciate y'all's efforts.
Thank you so much. And know that we do make mistakes and we take responsibility and we learn from them and we take the appropriate steps to correct them. We take all rider feedback very seriously and make the appropriate changes for that to happen. One thing that I forgot to mention is we also have a on-call 24-hour dispatcher on-call in case someone's on a trip somewhere, or we tend to get cancellations more than anything else. A few people want to make reservations at 1 a.m, and so we're doing an app for them to do that. But we do get that call once in a while. But from a transit perspective, all cancellations are critical because then we don't set the asset. We don't spend funds to pick up somebody who's not going to get on the bus. We've been educating the ridership on that, and it's been proven to be very effective in reducing our no-show rates, which are amazing.
I was on the board of the previous one, and we were so glad that y'all stepped up because that was so ill run. It was an embarrassment. But whenever y'all started, it seemed so far away because y'all were in, I think, Alice.
That's correct.
And how are we going to be served? Well, immediately, as Commissioner Cashline said, the services increased a bunch. They really did. But so many people got such a bad taste from the previous ones. And you know, it took us about 3 years to get that changed.
Right.
But anyway, bottom line is thank you.
You're more than welcome, Commissioner. And no, again, we're real proud when we analyzed the figures and saw that in the last quarter of 2022, while the amount of trips, when you look at it in the big picture, it's not that many in a quarter, average 225. For those persons taking those trips, it's a lifeline. And to be able to have numbers higher in a post-COVID environment so soon than even a pre-COVID, that was something that we were quite startled, and we're very proud of. And I think it's a testament to some of the mobility management efforts. We've been partnering with the Chamber of Commerce actively. We've been participating in outreach fairs and functions that are taking place. We see that this is a community and a county where there's a lot of things that are happening. I think we can explore other venues in addition to current services and expanding those. For example, there's festivals happening all the time. I think from a safety perspective, we can partner and find ways to have parking in one location and be able to transport the participants to the venue safely in and out, rather than creating traffic jams possibly. So the possibilities are endless. And we do believe, Judge and Commissioners, through a formal study of a TTSP, we can get some good data where decisions could be made jointly of how to continue improving the overall goal, which is the quality of life of the residents of this county.
I have a question for you,
Yeah.
and I'm very impressed with this. I remember the prior service, and this certainly seems to be head and shoulders above that. Do you have any reason or conjecture for why the number was down so much in 2021? The
Um,
ridership number?
COVID. The ridership under COVID exponentially went down 80%, not just us, nationwide. One of the reasons why we were able to sustain the service and keep the drivers that we currently have is through the blessings of the CARES funding that allowed us to sustain service and a workforce to be able to keep them in a post-COVID environment. The recruitment of drivers, well, all personnel is very, very challenging. For every position we have to screen 15 people, and then we're about to hire them, and then they decide not to come in for multiple reasons. But we're confident. We know that the ridership went down in 2021 because of COVID.
Thank you.
There
Very
were some
impressive.
space limitations on our buses, also mask mandates. By the way, mask mandates on our vehicles was never an issue with any rider. We were required to report it to FTA, but there was never any rider that was unwilling to wear the appropriate PPE when boarding our vehicles as required by law.
Did you bring any cards with you, business cards?
I ran out and I didn't bring them with me, but I could certainly, Commissioner, follow up and give you my personal information. Judge, are there any other
Routing
questions?
is very interesting to me. Patricia Arnold brought it up that there are several people in this community that are too proud to ask for a ride and too proud to tell their family that their vehicles broke down. So they're walking to HEB from as far away as Market Street or to Walgreens to get their medication and walking back. And these are elderly
Mhm.
people. So the flexible routing system would be something that we could look into. And do you do that study yourself, or do you need?
Well, we're fortunate. TxDOT is very clear. We're in the business of providing the services. So they've hired a pool of consultants paid by TxDOT, made available to us. So we submit the application. We're currently doing a similar study in B County. We submit the application. Once it receives approval, we get a consultant assigned to us at no cost to us or the county. They begin a series of interviews as appropriate. They begin gathering the data. They use the technical expertise and begin providing the output, the data that we need. This service, what does it require? How can it be done? And what would be the cost to sustain it over time? So it would be at no cost. We would certainly be asking for the partnership of the Commissioners Court and other appropriate county entities, as well as other community-based organizations in gathering the appropriate data. But I think, Judge, specifically, our goal would be to demystify the impact of transportation and make it more of an improvement of quality of life because it's ease, because it's safe, because it's comfortable, and it really becomes I'm going to get into my car. It's going to be the same as I'm just going to wave down the bus and it's going to take me to Walmart and bring me back home.
All of a sudden, I feel important. I've got two mics in front of me. And I'm mic shy to begin with, but that's, I appreciate everything you're doing. And do we need to formally request that study, or can you?
We can make the request ourselves. It's not required. I will certainly make sure to mention that I've been before the court, and should the court require to make an action in the future, I'd certainly come before you and let you know. But I'll let them know that there appears to be tremendous interest from the court and conducting this study, which would go a long ways.
Please do.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Service is not limited to beyond that.
Absolutely. Our service is open to anyone for any purpose, to any location within our service area. There are no restrictions whatsoever. There's no qualifying criteria other than I want to get on the bus. I'll make my reservation in advance. I'll be aware of the fare and I'll pay it upon boarding. There is absolutely no requirement to use the service. Public, it means the entire public.
But it's in the unincorporated area or everybody in the county?
Everybody in the county.
So, and I think you mentioned something about being outside the city. What's the distinction there? Is that the fare discount?
Yes,
Okay.
the fare reduction for trips in and out of the Corpus Christi urbanized area, currently it's reduced by 80%. And we project our budget to last for at least a good 18 to 20 months for that funding to be secure. So we pretty much have about 2 years of how we're going to sustain that service over time after that period of time.
Our employees and commissioners and all our elected officials are out amongst the public a lot.
Mhm.
Do y'all have any small brochures or something like that? That I know in my precinct, I have from 12th Street all the way to Aransas Pass. And I've got a lot of people there that really do need this service. And we're not in the town hardly at all. But do you have something that we could keep in our truck and you know, hand out to people that we see? And I have several in my precinct. I have several people that are key in the neighborhoods,
Mhm.
and give them some so that the people can understand that there is transportation available, because that is the judge hit on it a while ago, that there's a lot of people walking
Correct.
that don't need to be walking.
Absolutely not. And yes, Commissioner, yes, we do have brochures. We brought some with us, and we'll make sure to bring sufficient packets to each one of the commissioners to also have in your own precincts, in your offices, and for you to have available and assist us in educating the public of the ease in writing our
Yeah,
service.
the district clerk, county clerk, those offices should all have something on their counter that will tell the people what to do.
Treasurer's Department too.
Absolutely. Well, if it's any indication, as soon as you enter the courthouse, you'll see two areas where brochures are provided. The one that when we were here last week that was missing was the one for transportation. All the others for the other services were still there. Transportation was missing, which is an indicator to us it's
People
being
picking it
taken.
up.
So we're going to do what we're going to do. We're launching other education campaigns, other efforts, includes billboards, some radio spots, more printed material, things to make it much easier for people to use it as a convenience rather than what we perceive our current trips as need-based trips. I need it because I have no other option. And that's good. We want to meet that need. We also believe that we could provide the service for those that it's easy. It's easier. It's not a big deal. And currently with, like I said, with gas prices, we can bear the brunt right now in getting you to a location and getting you back safely. Are there any other questions, Judge, Commissioners?
There's no other questions. I just want to say we do appreciate everything that your company does for Aransas County, and we're looking to see what we can do to help you. All right.
We appreciate that very much. Again, thank you so much for your time this morning and for your attention. As always, if there's anything that you're aware of, any issues that come up, give us a call. Give me a call. I'll make sure that you get my card. You'll have my cell phone. Anything we could overcome it. Any ideas? In another county, the post office was closed down. So we're looking at some routing of moving some of the residents to come to the town to pick up their mail, take them back. The limitations are those that we impose ourselves. And we believe that we can do a service to continue improving the quality of life of residents in Aransas County in connection to the entire coastal bend. So thank you for your time and have a blessed morning.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Item number 2 is presentation of Aransas County Stormwater Management Master Plan for the Thule Lake Watershed and information about stormwater management as it relates to the health of Little Bay, and provides recommendations for implementation of stormwater management plan by Mr. Reed. Come on up. He's been working on this for a spell.
Long time. Good morning, commissioners and judge. So last year, you may remember we had a lot of rain. And in fact, since
good.
Harvey, we've had several years with lots of rain. Thankfully, we've all, the city, the town, the county have gotten grants, and we're all working hard to try to solve these drainage problems that we have. And that is a good thing. However, There is a concern that these new and improved drainage structures are going to cause a negative impact to Little Bay. Recently, I went to a forum that the NAB district hosted, and they talked about stormwater pollution and pollutants from the Rockport treatment plant as being the major culprits of pollution in Little Bay. And while I think there's probably some other issues besides those two, I think they actually do make a very good point. And so what I propose is a community-wide Thule Creek Watershed Stormwater Management Plan. This needs to be a community plan. We need input from citizens. We need input from Rockport and Fulton and the NAB district, and everybody needs to be on board with it. This map is Thule Creek watershed in the orange line, and it's one of the major drainage systems that we have in this community. It stretches from the airport almost to Market Street, and then from the bypass down to the shoreline. The watershed is about 2,400 acres. The amount of water that drains into all of Little Bay is about 3,000 acres. So a good bit of that comes from Thule Creek. And the watershed is mostly in the city of Rockport, but it does extend into Fulton and extends into Aransas County. So, we're all have an interest in this. And then it is discharged into Little Bay, which is managed by the Navigation District. The watershed is already pretty highly developed, commercial use, residential use. And it's currently has new developments going right now and will increase in the future as well. Increased development has a negative impact on flood control and water quality and natural habitats unless we plan for that. Last year, we had flooding. We had roads that were impassable. We had water in houses. This is Thule Creek at the pedestrian bridge down by Walmart. You can see how much water was actually coming down that creek. As a comparison, in last year during the rains and what it normally looks like. This is a tremendous amount of water. We also have problems in Little Bay. We do have pollutants. The pollutants that are going into Little Bay, we have sediment from construction sites. We have pollutants from the treatment plant. We have residential pollutants like trash, used motor oil, fertilizer. We have bacteria from animal waste and chemicals from household products that are disposed of incorrectly. And this map shows in purple areas into the creek watershed that are likely to be developed in the near future. We should plan for that. That's a fair amount of new development that we're likely to see. This is Little Bay in 1945. I don't remember that before my
I don't either.
I was going to say maybe the judge does. Maybe Jerry does. But we had an undeveloped island. We had a sandbar, and we had Rockport, which wasn't nearly as populated as it is now. I don't think we had boat traffic in Thule Creek. In Little Bay back then. I'm not sure. I think with our southeast prevailing wind, we had water pushing over that sandbar and bringing in salt water and fresh water from Rockport drainage. It merged and created a healthy estuary. Now, Little Bay today has changed a bit. You have Heel Agro and the dead-end canals. You have the beach park replacing that sandbar, and you have more water from Rockport. And together, all these things have created the problem that we have. This is an exhibit from the Mott McDonald report. I think y'all saw that a few months ago. And I just wanted to bring up that they were looking at circulation in Little Bay. And one of their thoughts was to open up a southern inlet. First picture shows existing circulation. The red areas are the areas that have very little circulation. They modeled it with an inlet in the southern end, and you can see how it helped the southern end of this quite a bit. Still have the problems in the canals and Harbor Oaks, but it's a good idea. And there are some potential projects that I kind of have outlined of what I think we could do. And going off Mott McDonald's report, I think that certainly is part of it. They had several things that they were looking at. One of them is cleaning out Leggett and Blevins Channel, widening and deepening, and putting culverts across the roads that would drain, that would create a circulation between the dead end canals and Aransas Bay. And then the inlet on the southern. We need a hydrologic and hydraulic model of Little Bay. This is a model of what's going on during a rainfall. This will make it easier to identify where the problems are and run different scenarios of what's going to happen when we do get increased development. Thank you. We probably need to improve our maintenance of the existing system. I know we try, but we get fires that need to be put out, and maintenance sometimes falls on the back burner. I think we can retrofit Thule Creek with some detention ponds and water quality and habitat protection features. And I think,
Let me ask you a question.
sure.
Does the county participate in maintaining the two channels?
The two channels in Little Bay,
Little Bay?
we do not. I do not, at least. We need to extend the Thule drainage system into those areas that are likely to get developed. And I think we can provide detention or water quality and try to protect some habitat up and down this system. So when it does develop, we don't have an overflow of Thule Creek spilling into the country club or our Little Bay shores or anything else. And I think the way we can make this fit, this map shows areas that are already owned by local governments. The yellow is City of Rockport. The green is Aransas County. I think there's some room in here to extend the drainage system and retrofit the existing system and do some good, both flood control and water quality. My recommendations going forward is to task a committee and the committee needs to be represented by the City of Rockport, by the town of Fulton, by the navigation district, by the county, and it needs to have private citizens. And they should, their task should be to oversee the process and implementation of a Thule Creek watershed stormwater and management master plan. We actually have a committee that fits that criteria, the stormwater committee. So we certainly could use that. We need to adopt a community-wide drainage criteria. We all need to be on the same page as this. Rockport and Fulton and the county need to be doing the same thing. And we need to have water quality and habitat protection as part of that drainage criteria. We need to continue working with Clean Coast Texas General Land Office, Texas Water Development Board, and other state agencies. They can be a very good resource for engineering support, planning, and potential grants. And we need to seek community support for the plan that we come up with. We need to advertise in the newspaper of what we're doing. We need public forums, and we need social media so everybody understands what we're doing. The worst thing that could happen is we come up with a good plan and nobody wants it. I think we've seen that before. So the big picture, water quality and flood control are both important. It should not be a one or the other. I think it's very possible to do both, but it's going to take planning and it's going to take buy-in from everybody. This is what 77 years of growth in Aransas County look like. I hope in the next 77 years, we will have done much better. Any questions?
No, that's a nice presentation. Appreciate it.
David, a lot of thought went into this, and I think this is a tremendous first step. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Sure.
There are several people in the community that are wise, much wiser than I am about any number of things. And I know they would probably be very interested in serving on that committee if they're not already. I'm not sure who is on the Stormwater Committee. I think I asked about that last time, but I don't think I got a real good answer. One gentleman I know, Earl Matthew, I'm sure you're familiar with him. You met with him several times. I really respect him and his knowledge and his passion for the environment. And I know one of the things that he has talked to me and others about with some of the new development to fix it so there are easements, greenway easements, and also the possibility of diverting the water over to Copano Bay instead of having it come into Aransas Bay or Little Bay. I'm not saying this has to be part of the plan. When he talks about it, it sounds like a very feasible, perhaps good solution. Maybe there are some reasons that there are other plans that are better. I would just hope that folks like him with the knowledge and the interest could be included on the committee.
Right. I know I've known Earl for a long time, and he does have some good ideas. They're not always feasible, but you have to look at them and see, and weigh each idea against each other and see what works the best and what's more feasible. I think as a community, the people here are very, very aware of what's going on with the ecology and with flooding. And I don't think there'd be any problem finding the public citizens that would serve on this committee. I think the tough part is to get the local entities to all work together for this common goal. That's my 2 cents.
I think also we have an opportunity now. We still have quite a bit of undeveloped land that are in the watershed area that do to work with Rockport and Fulton, make sure that we have drainage easements or that they have drainage easements through that makes sense.
Right.
It's easy to say, well, I'll give you this particular over here if it doesn't go anywhere, or if it's over in the scrub area that they can't develop in. But we need to make sure that we need to watch our impervious elevation issues. And we've been on this for a long time. Since you came on, we've advanced so much more on that. But encourage things like impervious parking. Pervious parking.
Sure.
Like we have here in a couple of places in town. Right. That's been in for 20 years and it's just doing great.
Yeah.
And you can't even tell it's concrete.
Right. Yeah, these are all good ideas, and there's a lot of ideas out there. It's making it part of what we're going to do. Not we'll throw this out there and see what happens, but let's have a plan that makes sense and install pervious pavers and things like that. Anything else?
Could we get a copy of this?
Sure.
Okay. And this really was great.
Thank you.
There's nothing else from Mr. Reed. Charlie Belair wishes to speak to us. I don't know who he is with anymore. His company just merged with somebody, but we know him. Okay.
Thank you. David, that was an outstanding presentation, I believe, and your plan looks very solid to me. What I wanted to do
Thank
was update the commission and the public on the progress that the General Land Office Clean Coast Texas program has made. And Hannah is passing out the project description that some of you, Commissioner Russo, Casterline, Burt Mills, and David Reed, participated in the initial meetings of the Clean Coast Texas program for Aransas County. For those of you who don't know, the Clean Coast, we were retained by the Navigation District, we being Bel Air Environmental and now Anchor QEA, were retained by the Navigation District in January of 2021. And our scope of work was to restore Little Bay. We didn't have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it just do something to help restore Little Bay. And we were very fortunate that the Texas General Land Office at the same time was kicking off the Clean Coast Texas program. And the purpose of that program was to help coastal communities restore their waters that had been impacted by stormwater and wastewater runoff. And so we competed to be selected. We were the only community selected, primarily because the judge, the mayor of Rockport, the mayor of Fulton, and the chairman of the Navigation District agreed to form a partnership to support the restoration of Little Bay. They signed a letter. It was sent to Land Commissioner Bush, and that was from January to March. I believe it was March 24th that we all met at the Paradise Key and then had the Clean Coast Texas come down. But anyway, that unity, without that unity, nothing was going to happen. GLO was very frank about that. We had to have unity within our local governments and public support, which we got. But from that beginning, we had 2 meetings. The judge appointed technical advisory committee members. The mayor appointed technical advisory committee members from the city. Navigation District did the same. Town of Fulton did the same. What you're looking at is a revision of the Little Bay Restoration Initiative project description. The original project description was in the 2019 Texas Coastal Resiliency Master Plan. I know this is complicated, but I didn't know what it was when we started working for the Navigation District, but called GLO, and they were so efficient and helpful. But that master plan is a big old document like this, and each coastal community in Texas identified priority projects that they would like to have funded to help restore their coastal environment. And the Little Bay Restoration Initiative, whoever worked on that resiliency plan, originally did a good job of identifying Little Bay Restoration as one of the priority initiatives. And once we got the selection by GLO, the Technical Advisory Committee members got together and we had 2 meetings, and within 2 meetings, we were able to unanimously agree to this project description. And the only comment we got was from David Reed. He said, I don't see how anybody could object to this. So that's a good endorsement. But from that, the Texas General Land Office Clean Coast Texas team looked at our priorities. They prepared a grant application by June. So we went from March to June. They prepared a grant application. In January, they received $1.8 million in grant to help to start on item number 1. That's the best management practices, developing best management practices. Included in that is retrofit, as David mentioned, certain green infrastructure projects to treat stormwater, And the big one is to design and prepare construction plans for the diversion of Thule Creek from Little Bay to Aransas Bay. That's the big item in there. And that'll be completed sometime in 2023. It's not necessarily a full diversion, but it's a diversion. There's an existing situation that looks like it might work. So anyway, that's where it stands. And the GLO folks said the big money, like the grant, there was no match, by the way. That $1.8 million, no local grant, no local match. But the big money depends upon all of our communities, all of our leaders joining together to support going forward, to do the diversion and maybe diversion to Copano. That hasn't come up yet. But anyway, there's a system in place with General Land Office, Clean Coast, Texas, to help support what David has recommended. So, but that's an update. And any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Belair? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlie.
Item number 3, presentation of conceptual drawings and plans for the new aquarium at Rockport Harbor. Looks very nice, by the way. Kind of excited after all this time.
Thank you. Good morning, Judge Mills and county commissioners and colleagues and friends of the community. For the record, my name is Christopher Mace. I am the president of the board of directors for the aquarium at Rockport Harbor. Today, I have a short presentation that'll touch on the overarching themes that are being proposed for the construction of the new aquarium at Rockport Harbor. Just as a very brief reminder, and I hope I never have to show this picture again. Following a record year visitation, the aquarium was destroyed by Hurricane Harvey in August of 2017. Prior to the storm, we were looking at a record year visitation. And if I recall, we were the #1 visited hot tax funded venue in Aransas County for a number of years. In fact, in 2016, we set an all-time visitation record of 38,497 people. We had data tracking in 2017 before the storm that in the first quarter, we had over 10,000 visitors, which was an increase of 10% over the 2016 record year. And of course, 77% of those, these are folks from out of town. 77% had traveled at least 75 miles to get here. So that's heads on beds, as we like to say here in the county. So obviously a very important venue for the county and in tourism, both locally and outside of our area. And the vast majority of this was done with volunteers. I do want to point out and emphasize that we had 2 paid aquarists and a full-time office manager. So there are jobs associated with this venue, which we are currently not funded to provide. We still are operating the board of directors and we're still operating the education center with our volunteers, but it is at a much reduced level. So conceptually, the architect has developed this rendition, and we are proposing to have insurance pay for this building, move it about 15 feet to the east, and connect it with the Aquarium Education Center, which it's got a laser. It doesn't show, but the Ed Center is the white building on the side there, with a nice wood deck that connects the two. We'll have a little extra space between the Rockport Marine Lab, which is the brick building to the right, and that'll allow access to the back where the vessels are, and for Texas Parks and Wildlife to continue to utilize. And it will combine the two buildings connected for traffic flow. The plans you received in email are rather detailed, and I think close to 40 pages. Don't think it's necessary to touch on every page at this meeting. Certainly, if you have some particular questions, I have a copy and I hope you do as well. But this is just a general outside view from the north and eastern sides. Interiors, we have designed an area of modular aquariums along the east and south wall, north and east wall, which there'll be separate aquariums. And we want to bring back the similar aquariums to what we had in the aquarium that exhibit the Gulf and Bay ecosystems. They're larger aquariums. So we're going to have a variety of sizes of live display, as well as dry taxidermy style, and a small gift shop in the corner. Bird's eye view up top, where you can identify the Rockport Marine Lab, the driveway to access behind in the marina, and the connection between the two buildings. Interior, we're showing our center cube tanks, which are 360-degree viewable, probably 500 gallon, if I recall, maybe larger than that. That's the cube tanks. Over 600 gallons, we think. So those are our showpiece aquarium. And we will have an elevated area in the center of the building with larger fiberglass viewable tanks to demonstrate what the habitat in the Gulf of Mexico looks like. We have the Bay and the Gulf tanks. These are similar to what we had. Again, just another bird's eye view, sans roof, of the overall orientation of the proposed design plan. And getting a little more technical, we'll have some office space. Laser pointer, really. On the left is office, food preparation, sinks and freezers and stuff for frozen foods, storage for dry goods, and then of course all the displays are there on your right. This is north looking up, bird's eye view. So we're proposing to put the gift shop up in the northeast corner. We have a supply delivery door on the northwest corner. The main interest is going to be on the eastern side with that large and welcoming wooden deck. Overall slope shape matches nicely with our southeasterly winds. Again, just a bird's eye view with the deck as kind of a highlighted how it's connecting the buildings with the doors. We'll have two doors and one delivery. So there are actually 3 ways in or out of this building. So with your continued and generous support, we will once again be able to reach our community with our educational and entertaining visitor experience, which promotes understanding, conservation, and stewardship of our marine resources and environments.
Have you got a timeline for construction yet?
No, because the next step of this is engineering design plans, which may take a little bit. But in speaking with the architect right now, getting on the waiting list for materials alone, and this is a metal building, is unpredictable. I would love to see a metal drop before December. I think that's rather ambitious, honestly. But I'm certainly ready for that. And I would love to see progress in a forward motion as soon as possible.
I believe everybody would agree with me, and it's something I said not long after Harvey, that we need to get Marley back home. He's not getting any younger, or she, and we need to get her home.
Well, Marley is approximately 21 years old, and at recent update from the aquarium, from the Texas State Aquarium, which is where Marley is currently being cared for, they estimate close to 30 pounds. I think 15 kilos was what they said.
Wow. So she's growing.
Yeah,
He's
bigger than ever. I'm not sure we really know the sex of the eel. And it's of retirement age. Lifespan of an eel like that is about 30. So he's certainly in very good hands, very capable hands now, and receiving really the best of care. So
Any questions for Mr. Mayor? If not, thank you very much for your presentation, and we're looking forward to the drop before December.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher.
All right, before we go on, I'd like to strike item 21 and 22. They're not ready for this meeting. They'll be ready for the next one. That being said, consent agenda items, there's 2, 4, 6, 8 of them. And again, animal control and now ours with the library have stepped up and got some real nice contributions. Kansas County, $14,806.72 from the Kansas County Library Friends. Richard Stack for animal control. Susan Bishop for animal control. Richard Birchfield for animal control, along with Christy Hutt for animal control. So I'd like to thank all those people personally and job well done. Appreciate it.
Any move to approve the consent agenda?
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded by Commissioner Cheney.
No, Russo.
Oh, okay, Russo. I don't care.
How are you?
Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Castro.
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lava.
Aye.
Judge Miller.
Aye, unanimous. Item 13. It's just acknowledgement of receipt letter dated June 1st, 2022. It's an official notification for Coastal Plains Community Center and their intent to purchase real property located in the city of Dallas. As such notice required by the Texas Administrative Code. So Brett. Item 14.
I move to approve the conceptual plans presented for the construction of a new aquarium at the Rockport Harbor.
I'll
Motion-
second that.
Motion made, second Commissioner Russo. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Castro.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lava.
Aye.
Judge Miller.
Aye. Item 15.
I move to approve order number 0132022, an order of the County of Aransas, Texas, prohibiting outdoor burning for a period of up to an additional 30 days due to the existence of conditions that have created a public safety hazard that would be exacerbated by outdoor burning.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Castro.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lava.
Aye.
Judge Miller.
Aye, unanimous. Item 16.
I move to approve a request from the airport manager to host a fly.
Oh, 16. 16.
Oh, 16, okay. Well, I was just going what you said. I move to approve order number 14/2022, an order of the Aransas County Commissioners Court prohibiting certain fireworks in an unincorporated area in Aransas County for the 4th of July fireworks period due to the existence of drought conditions.
Motion made. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, Commissioner Russo. Any discussion?
Could we have just a few words about what fireworks are covered and what aren't? I read the resolution, but if I were wanting to put off fireworks, I'm not sure I would understand what I can do and what I can't. Is it really just bottle rockets of a certain size? So
Any air
It's an aerial firework.
area fireworks?
So generally anything that goes up from the air, if you remember probably the little worms from when you were a child
yeah,
and you
or
light,
the volcanoes that sit on the ground, those are
Yes.
okay, but nothing that flyers in the air.
that's correct.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Castro.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Commissioner Lava.
Aye.
Judge Miller.
Aye, unanimous. Item 17.
I move to approve a request from the airport manager to host a fly-in event that will be free and open to the public on December 10th and 11th, 2022 at the airport terminal and ramp.
Second.
Motion made and seconded by a couple of people. Commissioner Castelline and Commissioner Lombard.
Are there any questions in particular? Otherwise, I can just give you a brief overview. So it'll be, we've identified, and I say we, it's myself, a few interested people at the airport, stakeholders, the airport advisory board. December is probably the best time we can host a fly-in, with the idea that eventually we're going to turn that into an air show, because we're not up against anything with the chamber, and we're not up against any other aviation events in South Texas. And the weather, it's hit or miss, but at least it's not 100 degrees, in the middle of summer, having it in July. So we tried to have one last April, but obviously the rains that David spoke of earlier prohibited that, so we canceled it. But I think December, that especially the second week in December, is a good target to stick to. And again, with maybe the future formation of a 501c3 through interested parties at the airport, we will turn a fly-in over to that group and be a host facility, and take a smaller role. So in this one, like for fly-ins, for example, we're going to provide, the airport will provide the insurance or the liability policy. But obviously we're going to get that covered through donations, or that's my goal anyway. We haven't had any trouble in the past, but I look forward to a 501c3 that can take it over and move toward having an air show at the airport.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Gear? Roll call.
Mr. Cheney.
Aye.
Mr. Castleman.
Aye.
Mr. Russo.
Aye.
Mr. Lava.
Aye.
Judge Miller.
Aye, unanimous. Item 19 or 18.
I move to approve declaring the Aransas County 2006 New Holland D85 dozer, VIN number SNN 6DC 85204, ACID number 1926, as surplus property and donating it as is to Aransas County Emergency Corps, a 501c3 tax exempt corporation, which consists of the Rockport Volunteer Fire Department, Fulton Volunteer Fire Department, and the Lamar Volunteer Fire Department.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Cheney.
Aye.
Mr. Castleman.
Aye.
Mr. Russo.
Aye.
Mr. Lava.
Aye.
Judge Miller.
Aye. Item 19, I'm sorry.
I move to approve an agreement with Network Cabling Services, NCS, for improving / updating the media equipment in the Aransas County Library Conference Room in an amount not to exceed $14,806.72, and authorizing the county judge to sign all necessary documents.
Motion made and second, Mr. Castleman. Any discussion?
I just have a couple of questions, Ms. Sanchez. And I think this is wonderful that the Friends of the Library are underwriting this. I saw on the scope of work that they're going to install the wall-to-floor dual pole display, 86-inch professional display, which I'm taking to be the monitor.
Yes, ma'am.
A rally bar, built-in camera, microphone array, and stereo speakers. I'm just curious, is this something that the state is encouraging libraries to do? Or have we recognized a need in the community for this type of equipment to provide additional services at the library?
It's more of a need,
Okay.
Commissioner Rousseau, that we're doing. The state isn't providing anything. We're doing it in order for the meeting room to get more use and for the public to get more use out of it.
And that room will be available for whom then to use?
For groups that choose to meet at the library and use that meeting room.
Okay, sounds like a wonderful concept. And the IT department, I'm sure, has taken a look at this.
Yes, they have.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Mr. Castleman.
Aye.
Mr. Russo.
Aye.
Mr. Lava.
Aye.
Judge Miller.
Aye. Item 20.
I move to approve the purchase of a used Caterpillar D6K type dozer from Holt Caterpillar in the amount of $186,746.35, and authorize the county judge to execute the necessary documents.
Second.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Castleman. Any discussion?
David, where does the money come from? Is it budget or a bond?
Part of the money is from COs. Part of it is from the budget for
Okay.
equipment.
And you were satisfied with the warranty on this?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Any further discussion? If not, roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Castro.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Mr. Lava.
Aye.
Judge Phillips.
Aye. Item 23.
I move to approve change request number 4 to formally document $19,004.
Number 23.
22.
23, we struck.
21 and 22.
I move to approve resolution R10, 2022, a resolution awarding the contract to Crowderville for disaster debris management, debris disposal, and debris removal services.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Cheney and Commissioner Russo.
I just have a question. So I think what we did at the special meeting last week was award it, and this is just the next step, putting it in the form of a resolution.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
This will be the next step.
Thanks.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Castro.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Mr. Lava.
Aye.
Judge Phillips.
Aye. Unanimous.
Item 24, I move to approve Resolution R11, 2022, awarding a contract to Thompson Consulting Services for monitoring services related to the debris removal and disposal contract.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Castro. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Castro. Excuse me. Mr. Cheney.
Aye.
Commissioner Castro.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Mr. Lava.
Aye.
Judge Phillips.
Aye. Unanimous.
Move to approve entering into a multi-jurisdictional memorandum of understanding for disaster debris removal management and debris removal.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Mr. Castro.
Aye.
Commissioner Russo.
Aye.
Mr. Lava.
Aye.
Judge Phillips.
Aye. Unanimous. Item 25.
Move to approve the May 2022 Indigent Healthcare Report.
I'll second that.
This is 26.
Motion, yeah.
Okay.
Item 26.
Motion made and seconded, Commissioner Russo. Any discussion? Not. Roll call.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Mr. Castro.
Aye.
Mr. Russo.
Aye.
Mr. Lava.
Aye.
Judge Phillips.
Aye. Unanimous. Item number 27.
I move to accept the animal, excuse me, I'm having trouble with my eyesight today. I move to accept the Aransas County Annual Financial Report for the year ending December 31st, 2021, as presented by Breyer and Company Certified CPAs.
I talked with the judge before the meeting about possibly tabling this agenda item. I don't see any problems with it at all, but we received it on Friday. And I think of something of this note and importance, it would be good to have more than 2 days to review it before we vote on its acceptance.
I agree. I'll withdraw my motion.
I would ask, I'm sorry, Mr. Byer is on the screen, or he's supposed to be on sharing. If we could hear his presentation, and then if you want to wait and vote next time, that's fine. He is not available to present on the 27th, 8th.
What I would ask is that we'll see if there's a second on tabling it. And if there is, we can hear his presentation, and then we can vote on tabling it, and we won't need to hear his presentation then when we discuss this on the 27th.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call.
This is on the table, but we'll still hear the presentation after we table. We can do that? Yes. Okay.
Commissioner Cheney.
Aye.
Mr. Castro.
Aye.
Mr. Russo.
Aye.
Mr. Lava.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're ready for the presentation, I guess.
Good evening. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm asking the computer person to give me the screen share, if you would.
You should have it now, Wayne.
Okay, here it is. Okay. Can you see this report?
Yes.
On the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. On your booklet or on the screen. If you would turn to page number 1 of the report, and in the very first paragraph is our opinion letter. They changed these reports around a little bit for this, beginning with your, actually your report. And this is our opinion. This is what's called an unmodified opinion. There's basically 4 different kinds of opinions that can be given, and this is the highest form of opinion. It basically means that these financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects, and nothing came to our attention that would cause us to qualify it of a material nature, and also that we were provided all the information that we had asked to examine. And that's next, this first paragraph under where it says basis for opinions. I'd like to just go over that a little bit. This first little sentence right here, first sentence, I got it in blue right here. It says, we conducted our audit in accordance with auditing standards generally accepted in the United States of America and the standards applicable to financial audits contained in government auditing standards right here, issued by the Comptroller General of the United States. What that means is that when we performed the audit, we had 2 different sets of rules to follow. The first set was just what's called generally accepted auditing standards here, which is the standards or the rules that every auditing firm in the United States uses when they perform a regular audit. The second set of standards here, where it says standards applicable financial audits containing government auditing standards, those are additional rules that must be followed when the entity has a single audit. And what a single audit is that when the entity expends an amount in excess of $750,000 of federal grant monies. And Aransas County did that in the 2021. So these second set of standards kicked in, so to speak. So we're just stating here that we followed both sets of standards. Next, I want to go right down here to page, it'd be page number 19 in your report. On page 19 your report, this is kind of a bird's eye view of all the activity last year in your funds. And these would be all your funds, except with the exception of basically the airport fund, and you had a couple other little bitty funds, but these are the major funds of the county. And you can see, oh, excuse me, let's just go down here to page actually 21. So go down to page 21. You can kind of see the activity of the first 4 columns of what transpired last year. The first column is your general fund. And you can see if you look at the very bottom of that, right down here, you had a beginning reserve for the year of $7,729,001, right down here. For the year, you had excess of revenues or expenditures of $267,000, and that gave you an ending reserve of $7,996 at the end of the year, right down here, almost $8 million. And if you compare your ending reserve of $7,996,000 to your total expenditures last year, which was $18,121,000, you have a coverage of about 45%. And generally speaking, you want to keep at least a 25% coverage. So that what the 45% means is you have about a 5-month prudent reserve at the end of the year in your general fund. This second column are your road and bridge funds. I think you have a main road and bridge and you have a lateral road and bridge. And here you can see that your beginning reserve was $3.6 million. You see it right down here. You had a excess of expenditures over revenues last year of $756,000. So that brought your ending reserve down to $2.9 million at the end of the year. And if you compare your $2.9 million ending reserve to your expenditures last year, $3.3 million, you have about an 85%, 90% coverage of your expenditures, which means in your road and bridge fund, you have about like about 10 or 11 month prudent reserve in your road and bridge fund. If you combine these two funds, these are your main funds, of course, your operating funds. If you take your total expenditures for your general fund and your road and bridge fund, you have about a $21,500,000 worth of expenditures last year, and these two funds combined. And you have a reserve of about, you got 8 million plus, so you have about, what is that, 11 million, about $10,500,000, say, ending balance. So it means you have about a 50% coverage in your expenditures with your road and bridge fund and your general fund combined, which means you have a 6-month prudent reserve, I guess what I'm trying to say. You have two other major funds. One is your capital projects fund. That's your grant fund here. And then you have your tax note capital fund. You can see that's a new fund. And basically that fund was set up to administer the bond you sold last year, the $13 million bond you sold last year. Interestingly, you'll see right underneath the bond amount, $389,064. That's your, not only did you get bond proceeds last year for that bond, but you also have what they call bond premium. And that's when you sell the bond and they get more monies. They sell the bond for more than the actual par amount of the bond. So now you see a lot of that this last year. Okay, and then here is on page 23 is your general fund budget here. And on page 23 at the very top, these are all your revenues. Last year, your second column, look at your second column is your budget, final budget here. You had a total final budget of $17,323,000. You brought in $17,800,000. So you exceeded your budget by $480,000 total revenues last year in the general fund. Then below there, your expenditures. You can see most, these are broken down by your different departments. These departments are categorized by functions like general administration, legal, judicial, financial administration, and the like. And most of your, probably 95% of your departments were under budget. Overall, down here on page number 24, you had budgeted total expenditures of $18,397,000 last year. You spent $18,121,000. So you came in under budget on your expenditures of $275,000. I would describe that as excellent budget monitoring. Interestingly, also your budget, your overall budget last year, your final budget, you budgeted a loss for the year of $285,000. And of course, as I explained earlier, you actually had a gain last year of $267,000. So you had a budget variance, I guess, positive variance of $652,000. This $385,000, you know, you get some people, I would say maybe 15% of the entities I look at actually have a zero budget, a balanced budget. It's okay to have more expenditures budgeted than your revenues for the year, just as long as you have enough beginning reserve. Of course, you had $7.7 million beginning reserve, so not a problem. And that's, in my experience, that's how entities build up reserves is by good budget monitoring. And I'm asked sometimes, you know, how much is too much as far as a budget reserve. I says you can never have enough in your budget reserve. Here on page number 29, just look at this briefly, are your, what we call, these are your proprietary funds. These are funds that are somewhat like businesses. You see in And here is a little bit different. You have airport fund, you got the current year, you got the prior year airport fund here. Prior year, you got the transfer station for the current year, prior year commissary fund, current year, prior year. The airport fund here, if you look at the 3 lines from the bottom in your changes, what you call change in net position, it's basically net income, net loss. You had a loss of $572,000. The main reason for that is you had depreciation last year, $669,000. That would be your capital replacement. You know, that depreciation is put in there for capital replacement purposes. I wouldn't be overly alarmed by that number. Generally speak, because nowadays a lot of your airport projects, or at least 90% of them or 95% of them, are paid for by the federal government. You see, last year's you had a loss of 563, almost the same, and the depreciation last year was 683,000. In your transfer station, you had a gain of 182,000 last year. In the prior year, you had a loss of $13,000. And of course, your commissary fund, you had a gain of 18,000 in 2021 and a gain of 16,000 in the prior year. I'm going to go down here, almost finished actually here. I'm going to go down here to page number 54 in the report. This is a schedule of your debt, all the debt of the county. And you can see we have beginning debt, the first column beginning here, beginning debt. We have additions, we have deductions, we have ending balance. And then we have what you call governmental activities. That's basically your general fund and your capital project funds. You have business type activities. That would be your mainly your air. I believe that's the airport, if I'm not mistaken. I forget which one that is. That would be your airport fund, I believe. And then you have different kinds of debt. You have certificates of obligation right up here. You can see that you had a beginning balance of $13 million. You had $13 million of bond sales last year. You had payoffs of $1.6 million. So you have an end of the year balance of 2.4, almost 2.5 million, ending balance of $25 million. You have some revenue bonds. You can see at the ending balance here, $1.6 million. And here's this bond premium I talked about. When you sell bonds at a premium, you don't show that as income right off the bat. You have to amortize it. And the amount still to be advertised in the future is $728,000. You would not consider that. That's a positive debt, I guess. You have notes payable here. These are monies for grants. Those are going to be forgiven, and those are going to be actually shown as grant income next year. This here is your net pension payable, and that is your TDCRS plan. You have bond net pension payable $764,000 here at the beginning of the year. And then you have net pension payable $1.7 million. That's your TDCRS plan. And we'll look at that in a second. But what that is you measure what you have in the plan versus what is owed out of the plan. And you owe $1.7 million more in the plan than what you have in the plan. Nothing to be concerned about. You have compensated absences. And at the end of the year, those are untaken vacation pay of $323,000. You have some certificates of obligation for the airport. And then I believe that's the airport. I can't remember if it's the airport or if that's the transfer station. $534,000. So total debt beginning of the year, $18,900,000. End of the year, $31,800. And I have seen entities a fourth of the size of Aransas County with that much debt. So there's nothing to be too alarmed about, in my estimation. On page number, here, page number 661. These are your net pension liabilities and fiduciary net position. Here's that $1.85 million again, that TDCRS plan. The liability as of this date was $36,685,000. That's the amount that's owed out of the plan. Fiduciary net position, that's a fancy word for assets you have in the plan of $34,825,000. So you have a net liability of $1.8 million. And here you're 94.93% covered. And I would probably say the average percentage covered is about 85%. So you are above that. Okay, two more items here. Let me go down.
I have a question before you.
Yes,
move
yes.
From page 61. The net pension liability as a percent of covered payroll increased about 10% from December 31st, 2019 to December 31st, 2020. That seems like a very large increase in the liability.
I can't answer that It does. I cannot answer that question because I just get this information directly from the TDCRS. So I would not know how to.
All right, thank you.
Well, look at, okay, here's the answer. Let me see if I can give you the answer here. So it almost a little bit, doubled, a little bit over, say it went up 125%. The reason is because they take this number here, last year is $9.6 million divided by 794. You can see that 794 more than doubled to $1.8 million. So that would be the reason for the percentage more than doubling. You see that?
I do.
Okay. I think it was a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, you had a huge net pension liability. And I think at that time, one of the commissioners was a CPA, I believe. And he actually researched it. And he found out that right here, and let me just show you this. As long as you brought that question up, you're going to have to be forced to look at the schedule over here. He found out right here, this is a schedule. This shows you the ins and outs for the year, the pension liability, the fiduciary net position, and increase or decrease of the liability. He found out that particular year, right down here where it says net invested income, there was actually a loss for the year. And that was the main reason why your net pension liability increased. If you look here, your net investment income last year was $3.2 million on your plan.
What page is that you're on, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. That'd be page 67.
Could it, this is Commissioner Laubach, could the major change from one year to the next have anything to do with the discount rate that we're required to apply to the future?
I was just going to get to that in a second. Yes. Okay. Yeah. I was just going to show you that your net investment income was $3.2 million for the year, but your total interest was $2.6 million, which is a lot. And then, yes, Commissioner, you are correct. They are charging you 7.6%, which is, I think, extremely unrealistic. But that's the amount of interest that was used in calculating the increase in your liability.
And do we know what it was for the year before to compare to?
Probably about the same.
So it's not that we've had to reconsider the discount rate for the future because of inflation or whatever, because it was the same from one year to the next.
Yeah, you want me to just pull it up right quick? I can do it. Would you like me to do that?
It sounds like maybe a question to have offline and not take up the meeting time on it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you can get the best way is you can get I'll send, you can get my telephone number, my mobile number, county auditor, and contact me, and I will actually give you that figure, and I can actually send you a copy of this page, or I can, she has it in her just, if you can get my phone number, I will send you that information.
Okay.
Jackie, would that information be in last year's audit? It should be, so we would have it available.
It would be in the same place.
Okay, I can pull that out. And if there's a question, then we can contact you.
Okay. Okay, last but not least here. Well, I was just gonna mention these, in the back of the audit are these other funds of the county. The reason these are on the back is because they are considered to be non-major. I wanted to show you this particular fund. This would be on page number 92. On page 92. And if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 column, the 9th column on that page is your indigent healthcare fund. If you go down to the bottom of that page, you can see that actually we'll go up about 10 lines. Your total expenditures for your indigent healthcare is 521,000, almost 522,000 last year. You had transferred in 955,000. So actually your transfers for the year exceeded your cost by $433,000. The beginning reserve was 1.7, almost $1.8 million. And that brought your ending reserve up to $2.2 million. I just wanted to show you that. Okay. And then lastly, your single audit section starts on page number 95 of the report. It's not page 95 and 96. And the reason you have a single audit is because your federal expenditures exceeded $750,000. You can see here on page number 96, your total federal expenditures was $9.1 million. And I believe you had 3 major grants. 3 major grants. Your first major grant was here under, and we have to test these grants. It's just like it's like an extra audit of these grants. Your first one would be what they call disaster grants put out by the Department of Homeland Security. The CFDA, these are listed by numbers, all these different types of grants, 97036. You expended $5.7 million last year. So it was tested by us. And then also on page 95 here, you have a investment for public works and economic development facilities. Is put out by the Department of Commerce. And this total expenditures of $1.139 million. And then one more grant, let's see here, this one here. It's a CFDA number 14228. It is put out by the HUD, Department of Housing and Urban Development. It's called Community Development Block Grants, probably one of the most common grants there is. And the total expenditures of $1.451 million. So those are all major grants, and they all were tested last year for the single audit. And then the last thing, when I finish these audits, I go and look and see if there are any comments. And there were no comments last year, none at all. And that's my presentation. I will say though that if you want me, I will be in Marlin, Texas on the 27th, but I can check in via Zoom if you have any questions. I'll just bring my report along with me. If you have any questions and you want me to check in on Zoom on the 27th, let me know beforehand and let me know what the question is. And then I'll be able to check in on Zoom on that day. It'll be around 10:30 in the morning. I think I'm up first thing. The meeting begins at 9 and I'll be able to get back with you around 10:30. That's all I have.
I have one more question. Did the scope of your review include anything to do with our Harvey casualty insurance through the Regional Pool Alliance?
Oh, just what we had to do per the auditing standards.
I didn't see anything in this report about
Nothing.
it, which is,
Yeah, nothing in depth, no.
I'm sorry, was
Nothing.
the answer no?
There was nothing in depth, no.
So your scope didn't include the Regional Pool Alliance
It
arrangement?
included it, but indirectly.
Indirectly, how?
Well, we just did it. When we perform an audit, we have procedures, rules and procedures to follow, auditing procedures. And we just followed those rules. And sometimes, and we look at, it tells us what we need to look at in more detail and what not to look at. Basically look at more detail, and I did not include that.
Okay.
Commissioner, they do look at the invoices that we pay and anything that we have recorded as part of the claim, but to look at anything that the insurance has paid in our behalf, anything that's not involved in our audit.
Thank you.
Any other questions for him? If not, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
All right, item, where are we?
28.
28.
Move to approve authorizing the county judge to enter into and sign a renewal agreement with Texas Association of Counties for employee health insurance for the 2022 through 2023.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Cheney.
Are there any changes in the premiums or the scope of coverage for employees?
No changes for the scope of coverage, but yes, we are looking at a 5.6% increase in the insurance coverage. That's why you have 3 different proposals as to which way you want to go with it. The first one would be the county absorbing all of the increase, which is option A. Option B would be the employee absorbing all of the increase, which for employee only is almost a double cost for them. And then option C would be a split between the county taking on half of the increase and the employee taking on half the increase.
And I looked at this, we have excellent coverage, and I really appreciate Linda's office and TAC for bringing us these proposals. And I know last year I was in favor of an increase in what the employee portion was. I think with the increases that we're seeing across the board in fuel and groceries and everything else, that if we can, I would be in favor of the county absorbing the increase in the cost of the premium and no change to what the employees are paying.
I agree with that.
So
We'll-
I'll
we'll be
make
looking
the
at-
motion to approve
I'll second that.
option A.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Cheney.
And we'd be looking at an increase for the county, annual increase of a little over $110,000.
I think that's what it shows on here.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Thank you, commissioners.
Item number 29.
I move to approve budget line item transfers.
Second.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Cheney.
Have
We
got
have
any?
none at this time.
Roll call.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Item 30.
I move to approve accounts payable and payroll liabilities.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second, Commissioner Cheney. Any discussion?
I would like to point out a couple of things. This report was pulled, so actually on the 3rd, we had the $142,000 check that y'all had approved. It does show up on this one again. It's not another one. That is the same check. It's just the dates that she needed to use to pull over the payroll information included that. Fund number 290 includes our lease payment to the NAV district. So there's a $19,000 check. I believe it's our annual lease for the NAV district. You will also see in Fund 322, we have a transfer to our downtown anchor of $2.5 million. That is going to be deposited into the account so we can pay our bill to Teal that is $2 million, almost $2.1 million. Just kind of rounded up and did a transfer. We've kept that fund separate so that we have multiple funding sources. So we wanted to be able to track everything. So we're not paying it right out of the 322. We are actually moving it over and keeping all of those funds in one place.
Any questions?
Yes, I have just one question. Jackie, that first one that you said, 142,000,
Yes, ma'am.
could you repeat what you said?
What I said, that was the property that we purchased over in Lamar on June 3rd.
At our special meeting.
Our special meeting, we had the accounts payable list that had that piece of that check on it to make sure that she got all of her payroll liabilities on this report. She had to use that same date.
Okay,
So it actually shows that it's not an additional check. It is the same check.
great. Thank you.
Any other questions? Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye, unanimous. At this time, it's department heads or elected officials have anything to bring up, bring it up now.
I have budget books, preliminary budget books for you. As you know, Monday is our first workshop. So to give y'all time to look at them and kind of see if you have any questions. I will remind you, it is a preliminary, so you may find a spacing wrong or, something, but we do hope, that you have a chance to look at them and see if there's anything. Numbers kind of look funny because I used this year's tax income instead of projecting what it might be. I'd rather just leave it as a placeholder and not have any false hopes of what it might be in the end. So if y'all want to stick around, I'll get them all to you as soon as we finish the meeting.
Okay, anyone else? I'd just like to say that the burn ban and the fireworks ban is nothing to be taken lightly. Anything can start a fire, but not long ago, at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, some kids decided to have fireworks party and started a fire that burned 20 acres and almost a house. We calling out volunteer firemen and women out at that time of night. Let's be a little more considerate. All right, nothing else?
Move to adjourn.
Motion made. Second, Commissioner Castelline. Unanimous.
Aye.